Welcome to Nourished with Nora, brought to you by Rora. I'm your host, Nora LaTorre. I'm thankful to have you listening along. Please remember to like and subscribe to Nourished with Nora wherever you listen to podcasts. It really does help.
So, welcome to the Nourished with Nora podcast, brought to you by Rora. So happy I have one of my new favorite people on the pod today. We have Chef Johanna Hellrigl, who is an incredible badass. She's a mom, she's a restaurateur, she's a chef. She was just featured in the New York Times for creating a model for restaurant sustainability that can be replicated across our country. She also went viral on Instagram the same month with an influencer visiting her restaurant, seeing firsthand what she's stirring up and being amazed. These are just a few of the things that make her amazing. She has constant projects and she's an advisor. She's a creator. She's a storyteller. She's wonderful. And we were actually recently met. We were friend dated by our friend Matthew Dillon at the Organic Trade Association. And then we quickly realized we also share mutual friends like Dr. Manasa, who was on the pod earlier. So I was an instant fangirl and instant friend and just adore Chef, and so thankful that you're here today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm really excited. I feel like it's been a like-minded friendship, and it's just amazing to be able to nourish that on this podcast. So I'm really excited to talk with you.
So thankful for you to be here. So you just were highlighted as the most sustainable restaurant in DC, which I would add that it's one of the most sustainable restaurants in the country. I see awards coming in the future for that. So I just want to dive in. What are your principles at Alma?
Yeah, so sustainability has got a wide range of what it looks like for a lot of people. And I think when Alma won DC's 2025 Sustainability Award, it was a great opportunity to be able to showcase how what we're doing is good for planetary health, but also for personal health. We really try to look at it as health and sustainability go hand in hand. And so with Alma being a mission-driven restaurant, we kind of asked the question of, how do we create something that has a certain set of principles that we hold ourselves accountable to? And so in terms of the pillars, even before the principles, we're looking at nourishment, sustainability, community, and then the health perspective of it as well. And so all of those pillars kind of lead into 10 principles that we have on the back of our menu. And the whole point there is we're really saying we're questioning everything, because a lot of times in industries like ours, you just have these habits that you've always had. And it was really important for me coming from restaurants. I grew up in them. My dad was a chef, to really try to ask those questions of have I always done these things this way because this is the way it's been done and it's the best way? Or is it just because it's the habit? And we really need to look at it from that perspective of is this the best for my employees' health? Is it best for my personal health? Is it the best for planetary health? When you ask those questions, you really start to look at how do you disrupt some of these systems? How do you flip things on its head and really start to do things differently? And so that's kind of the base of it. But the overall mission really is just, I want you to feel good while you're at Alma, but I want you to feel good afterwards. And I think that we as chefs are responsible of taking care of your health, because many people are going out 2 to 3 times a day now to eat, just with the busy lifestyles that people are living. And I just really want to make sure that the meals that people are having with us are nourishing. So that's a big part of what we do.
Had an amazing meal recently at your restaurant, and you feel so good in the moment. And it's sharing a big table with folks or sharing the table with the whole community that's there experiencing it. And then even though there are individual tables, it just feels like you're all together in it. But then I do feel like you create glow for people the next day. You feel nourished the next day, and it's so powerful. I love what you...
No, sorry. I was just going to say, with what you said there, it's it's exactly the point, right? After COVID and the pandemic, right, a lot of us were eating at home. We were kind of just in our bubbles of, that's what we had to do. And after COVID, we've all been kind of looking for more community and more engagement. And when I got certified in integrated nutrition from IIN, I learned about primary foods versus secondary foods. And one of the big things there, right, is primary foods is actually not the food you eat. That's secondary food. primary foods is like this circle of life, which includes your relationships, your community, the joy, all of that part of it. And so with restaurants, we really need to remember that those are like community gathering spaces where we can all get together. You were at a big, long communal table with people that you probably haven't seen in a while, or we're getting to really engage with and have those in real time conversations that feel like we get to do less and less when we're always online or always working. And so that's kind of what I hope with the restaurant is like, let you relax, let you just have a good time and enjoy yourself, but also feel good the next day from the food that you've been nourished with.
I love this idea of primary and secondary foods, of like two meal experiences. One, what's around you, and two, what you're taking in and the food that you're actually consuming, and thinking about food as like what feeds us. And that's relationships, that's experience, that's being fully present. And then that's also the actual nutrients and the food. And I love that Alma brings it all together. I also love that you said you have a principle of question everything. Can you talk me through like what are some of those key things that you question? For example, on the menu, you have all of these actions you've taken. Can you kind of walk through what I saved the menu? Actually, I should pull it up because I have a copy of the menu because it was such a special night. And I always save copies of menus when it's a really special night. And so I saved it. I have one from Chez Panisse with Al's Waters. I have yours now. I'm like, you know, I have these like
to be saved
next to each other. Yeah. Yes, of course. And I can't wait to have a copy of your menu from Alma SF. Just saying that you're gonna hear that a lot from me. But I can't wait for you to open your West Coast restaurant. But later. But or soon. I was so inspired by the menu and how it showed how you were questioning everything. Like there were like, for example, going from just regular water with which who knows what's in the pipes in restaurants to filtered water. And Roar is one of our sponsors. They're an incredible water filter company. And I've been like nerding out on water filtration. It's like a side passion for me and how important it is. And like, that's just one of those things that you've done is water filtration. But now you've worked on plastics and then you're working on some big things on that. Like, can you just walk me through what are those kind of question everything's actions that when you questioned everything, actions that you took and ways you're doing things differently in the restaurant world?
Yeah. I mean, foundationally, let's talk first on the food level, right? Like we really do try to support local regenerative farms, organic certified farms, and we really do work to make sure we're building those direct relationships. Because I do think that people have to remember nutrient density, like if your food's been sitting in a warehouse for 3 weeks versus what gets picked from the ground and then gets delivered to the restaurant, it's going to have more of those nutrients that you need to nourish your body. And so we really do try to work directly with our farmers. We grow in season. I work a lot with Lancaster Farm Fresh Cooperative. Casey, the president, is just absolutely fantastic, and his team. And we really are able to kind of talk about what's in season, what we can grow this year, what his farmers' capabilities are. And we really keep pushing each other to different limits. And I really appreciate having people like that in my corner to figure out the local food system. In addition to that, though, we are a Northern Italian restaurant. So we support local artisanal producers from Italy, our imported Italian Ligurian olive oil, because I really do want people to taste like. My biggest compliment is when somebody from Liguria comes and they're like, this tastes like the focaccia di formaggio that I have at home at La Manuelina. That to me is what my childhood is. And I'm trying to bring that here in the US. So when I can get that together, it really does mean so much to me. And I also, from like the gluten
focaccia is like the focaccia of my dreams. I think about that focaccia like every other day.
It's just one of those memories for me, right? And I was really like, all the food at Alma is a little bit more like from scratch, slow cooking, and really just trying to do things from the way that I was raised, but here in DC. And so, you know, even coming down to that, it's like how I approach gluten, right? Like so many people have gluten sensitivity. Obviously, we have celiac disease as rising in our country. And so, you know, even our chef de cucina, he's celiac. And so a lot of the menu was thoughtfully thought through of like, how do you make Italian food inclusive rather than exclusive when it comes to dietary restrictions? And so that's one of our biggest things is how do we nourish people that are going through all different things, right? You could have SIBO and need to be on a low FODMAP diet. And you're like, God forbid I could eat in an Italian restaurant. No, I actually have plenty of dishes that you can do. We all have different stages of life that we have to go through. And maybe it's an elimination diet or this or that because we're going through something. So how do we truly take care of people and what they're going through and still allow them to have that community, that joy, that engagement? So that's a big passion of mine with regards to those principles. Well, then it comes down to like, if you're buying certified organic and you're doing all of these things, then why are we cooking in nonstick pans and why are we cooking in water that is contaminated? When you go on the Environmental Working Group's tap water database, you can search your zip code and you can understand what's in your water. For me, the Environmental Working Group is really something I look to and work hand in hand with. I really enjoy having the research and science behind the things that we're looking at and trying to question. That was a big thing for me of why I needed to have a whole house water filtration system instead of just what many restaurants do is they put it on certain pieces of equipment. And so with that filtration system, I feel like I'm able to really make sure that the water is clearing as much as possible while also still retaining some of the minerals necessary for us to have for our water, right? And so that is an example of it, but then it also goes into like the little details. Italian coffee culture is not a to-go coffee culture, but I know that the US is. So what I did is I created a bancone. Like when you're in Italy, you go up to the banco and you get a cappuccino, cornetto, and you kind of lean and then you go about your day. And you'll see many people will go to the same bar. They'll go in the morning for a cappuccino. They'll go for a midday espresso. And then it's then the place that they go for aperitivo. So I wanted to culturally create something that I felt like people could just stop and lean and have something and take a couple minutes of their day. But then at the same time, eliminate a little bit of that to-go culture. And I feel like we've got a lot of people who will come in knowing that our coffee comes out quick enough that they can have that moment in time and not just take it to go. But at the end of the day, I wasn't going to not have to-go cups because we were opening a cafe portion of our restaurant. And I was like, well, why am I going to do all this hard work of getting organic milk and no refined sugar and the best coffee that's imported from Italy, and then just put it into to-go cups that have the plastic lining or even like the eco-friendly cups that are commercially compostable, but there's no commercial composters just on the street. And on top of it, the PLA lining from the studies and research does leach more microplastics into the cups than the actual recyclable ones. So when those kind of things come up, it really does come into like the we question everything. And that was a good example of like, I need to find a cup that actually meets my standards. And so we have these funky cups from SoFi Paper. They're rebranding as something called Nothing. But these cups, they're microplastic free, but they biodegrade in 180 days, which means that you can just throw them in a trash can on the street and they're not going to impact the environment the same way that these other cups that if you don't put them in a commercial composter can't be treated the same way. And those are just a couple of examples of just like getting into the nitty gritty of that. But then at the same time, we come into like the plastic culture of restaurants. And that's when you really look around and you're like, okay, there's plastic wrap, there's Cambros everywhere, there's squeeze bottles everywhere. So basically with the question everything, then it came back to kind of like looking at plastic and how plastic kind of living in restaurants and how we're using them. And it's just everywhere, right? So it's down to like the deli containers, the squeeze bottles, plastic wrap, the gloves. Like it's just kind of infiltrated all aspects of restaurants. And that's really where I wanted to understand, I'll be honest, you'll never be able to get entirely plastic free. And any restaurant that says they're a plastic free restaurant, like it's really not true because there's plastic in everything, whether it's furniture, whether it's like in a paint, like it's just become so part of everything. But you still have to like line your trash cans. You still have certain things that you can use plastic for. But it's about how you use plastic and what kinds of plastic and what they're made for. That's really important for people to start to understand in the industry. And so what we look at it is like, what plastic is not great for the environment, what plastic is not reusable, what plastic can leach more microplastics into the food, and like really asking those types of questions. And so when we're single-use plastic free, we don't use any squeeze bottles. We've made a lot of changes that I would have maybe had in other restaurants previously to be as plastic free as possible. But at the end of the day, some stuff needs to change in our full system, right? Like how our food is given to us. We get a lot of ingredients in either tins or in glass, but some stuff is still going to have some type of plastic wrapping on it, et cetera. So we have to ultimately make changes in all of the food systems to really be able to see that move entirely away from plastic. So at Alma, we have a plastic policy, and that helps us really explain to our staff, like, the different types of plastics that exist and how you can use reusable ones. Like, we don't use any polycarbonate Cambros because those usually actually are still to this day not all BPA free. But we also believe that it's really important to not put any high heat, high fat, high acid in these containers. And they also do have a shelf life at a certain point because of the reuse. If they have any scratches, anything like, there's certain limitations to how long you can use these products. So we really use things for cold storage only, like Lexans in our walk-in. And that's kind of how we really approach the plastic. But the thing that kills me is when I look around as the culture, if you look at The Bear and all these TV shows that are just really toting our culture of restaurants, you can really see how much plastic is integrated, and you can see these deli containers are the cool things that you drink your coffee out of or your Coke, and you're just using it almost like as this vessel. And, those containers are really supposed to be single use. A lot of them are not BPA free, and they're continuing to be used with high acid, high fat, and high heat and food storage. And then they're putting them in high heat dishwashers. And it's just this vicious cycle that, those are the types of things that I'm so passionate about, like changing on a larger scale in the restaurant industry, because I think that impacts not only our guest health, but it really does impact our team's health as well. And so, we've got glass mason jars if you want to drink something off of the line. And yeah, it sounds scary, but they're really durable. I'm sure I have a kid, like I have them in my house, and if I can trust a toddler with it, I'm sure going to trust like an adult to be able to use it. And so that's kind of
the toddler class too.
Yeah.
But working at home for a toddler can work with adults in a kitchen.
So another part of that I'm really passionate about is asking the question of like, does it help us or does it hinder us? Instead of just being like, let's make grandiose greenwashing statements of like, we're this or we're that, really transparently asking those questions for the betterment of the planet as well as our health.
Nourished with Nora is brought to you by Rora. I trust Rora products every day to provide clean, delicious water for our family. Not only do the Rora countertop system and filtered shower head look beautiful, they are rigorously tested to significantly reduce your exposure to harmful contaminants by the best labs in the world. I love that our drinking water and bathing water are safer. And honestly, it just tastes so much better. My kids are now asking for 2 water bottles full of Rora whenever they head out the house. Check out Rora.com and tap into clean water today. That's RORRA.com. Thank you.
Yeah, I think when people go into a restaurant, and now when we're cooking at home too, I think people are starting to ask, how do I cook and nourish myself in a way that doesn't come with a side of microplastics? Like, how do I not have that credit card's worth of plastic weight accumulating in my brain and in my organs? So we had Dr. Leo Chasande from the NYU on the podcast talking about the health harms of bioaccumulation of plastics and microplastics in our bodies and in our organs. And what's powerful, what I loved about that conversation was that he really talked about how quickly our bodies, when we change and start avoiding plastic, can start to filter and reset, and our bodies can regenerate. And so that was a real conversation of hope for me. But so then it's like, how do we get restaurants and places where you're getting food to move away from plastics so that you don't get that hidden, invisible side of microplastics? I think people are starting to question everything, right? Like of when they go to coffee, like you're talking about your coffee shop, which I didn't get to have coffee there. And it's like the cutest walk up. It feels like I was transported to Italy for a second when I walked by. But, like that you take an extra minute to enjoy the ceramic cup, and or that you get the Alma reusable mug. I'm sure you have those too, that you can like enjoy every day. Or I bring my Yeti with me, right? So that I can not come and have that plastic exposure immediately when I'm being served. But then also like you're thinking about all the way through the supply chain, which is so powerful. And how do we get every restaurant to do that kind of care where it just like, I love that I walked in and I was like, I want this everywhere. Like, I want this in all of our restaurants. I want this in all of our schools. I want this in hospitals. Like, we as a society, we're learning the harms of plastics and then the harms of pesticides and these toxic ingredients, et cetera. And like, it's just, we have to just take bold steps. And I love that Alma is a replicable, scalable model for what's possible.
I appreciate that because first and foremost, I'll say like, I don't gatekeep. Like my whole goal with Alma is if a chef asks me tomorrow, how can I do this? How can I get to be as plastic free as possible? What can I switch to? Like, I'm the first person to be like, here's my resource, happy to help, make an introduction, whatever it is. Because ultimately, I see Alma as like the case study to help, like, if it's a profitable and successful business, I can then share all of my best practices and resources to help make the transformation. I'm not interested in opening hundreds of Almas. Like I truly want to look at the saturated market that already exists of restaurants and food systems all together. Like you said, school systems, food systems for hospitals, and think about how we can take some of these practices and transform what already exists. And that's like a big passion of mine. The science is really important. And it's obviously clear that plastic hasn't been as well studied as it needs to. And I know EWG has some really great science research that they're working on about this. That's going to be really interesting about traceability. But the thing that I think is so important is like, we never, maybe 50 years ago or 100 years ago, were facing what we're seeing in people's brains and the placentas and everything else. And I just don't think it takes people's true lived experience.
It's like everywhere. It's like creeping up in all of our bodies, like in all parts of our bodies.
Yes. Like if we keep going this way, we're talking about fertility, everything. It just has so much impact that it's like, we shouldn't be the science experiment to figure out how harmful it is. Like at a certain point, even with being healthy and pesticides and everything else, it's like you can't negate people's true lived experience of like when they do the biomarkers and their blood work and then they eliminate for, let's say 90 days or 6 months, like all of these different things we're talking about. And then they go do their, like what that impact is. If we just go back
you can measure it on yourself, you can see it.
You go back to the root of like eating real whole foods versus ultra processed foods. And you can truly see the difference. Like I've seen it in my health. I've seen it transform in some of our employees' health. Like, I have some employees that are like, you've ruined going out for me because they now noticeably, feel the difference. And it's because we nourish them at Alma with the same food, maybe in different preparations because some of our chefs want to cook like outside of Italian food, but they like are being nourished with the same ingredients. And that's really important.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they see firsthand, you change the food and you change your life quickly. That's like the story of hope. I love it.
I know. And honestly, that's the big buy-in, right? Is when people are like, they make one little change, and this is the same applicable thing to doing this change in the restaurants, right? It's like you make one little change of a health habit and you feel a noticeable difference. And that's all the buy-in you need to continue on that path. And I think that's the same thing with this health and sustainability stuff with restaurants. You make that one switch, you're really going to maybe see that difference, and it's going to really impact your life and help you make other incremental small changes from there. Can't be all at once, right?
And better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, it's habit stacking. It's like make one change and make one decision and then other good decisions happen. It's just like, it starts to create a real ripple effect. One thing I want to talk about is just like, you are doing so much. You're a mom, you're a restaurateur, you're a chef, you're an entrepreneur. You have all these projects. I'm like, you are making it happen. And real talk, like I had to text you urgently right before the pod. And I was like, can we start 15 minutes late? And you're like, that's perfect. That works for me. And I had a little bit of time to get a little more caffeine right before our chat. And so, I feel like you and I are real time juggling things, and that you are really doing it, especially with everything at home. And then we hop in and you're like, I maybe got a little cut this morning, but I'm here. And like, you're bandaging yourself while you're hopping on the pod, like just multitasking maven. So could you just talk a little bit about your mentality? Because it's a lot.
First of all, you have to give yourself credit there too, because you are exactly the same. And that's actually why I think this friendship is going to be it for the long term, because it's really nice to meet somebody who's so like-minded, not just in like mission and principles and values. I feel like I could speak for both of us. Like, we feel called to a bigger purpose and to do things to make a better world and to do good, and also leaving like a more beautiful planet for our child. And so, yeah, it's really hard. And it makes me emotional to even think about, because it's so much.
Yeah.
And it's such bullshit when people say that women can have it all, because like you can, but you're so exhausted doing it. But like, it's just like, I look at my 4.5-year-old son and like just navigating the world that it is today. And I'm like, it's just got to be better for him. And so, yeah, like I keep pushing for him. I keep pushing for just wanting a better like culture for my industry, and also just like a safer world that we can all like. I want people to feel good. It's so hard to watch people get sick. Like, I just, from my dad to just seeing other people have health crises, seeing chefs die of pancreas cancer, heart attacks
too early. There are quite a few chefs recently who have passed too early. So
and it's triggering for me, right? Because my dad obviously passed away from pancreas cancer, and then just seeing young people either being diagnosed with cancer or having heart attacks at a young age. And it's just like the stress, what we're putting ourselves through in addition to these environmental toxins, like it's too much. And I just feel so called to this bigger purpose and mission, because I really want people to feel their best and live their best life. And I read this book at one point it's like called Balance is Bullshit. And it was a great book to read before I opened my restaurant, because it talks about like,
none of this bullshit.
you can't act like it's not a 9-to-5 life that I live, and it's not a normal life to give my child. And I grew up in that industry and I hated it. Like, I didn't want to be in the industry, because I was falling asleep sometimes in my mom's office with 2 chairs put together and like brought home at 2 a.m. Like, that is not the life that I want for my kid. And it's not something that I enjoyed. So I try to find the little wins, whether it's leaving work in the middle of the day to go pick up my son and spend time with him, and then drop him with my husband or a nanny or whatever. Like, we find a way to create a system that works for us to make sure that he feels loved, but at the same time, he sees what mommy is doing, and he knows that I'm really pushing because I want to make a better world for him and for our life as well. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I have it all together. I think there's definitely periods where it's too much, but I love connecting with people. I love finding and I just think it takes a mom's brain. Like, even with the project that I'm working on, which we can get into at some point, but with Dr. Manasa, right? It's like, I'm a mom. I was using her stainless steel plateware for my child, because obviously her mission of being a child pediatrician who wanted to not have kids eating off of plastic and really eating off of like plates that are okay for them to eat on, but also won't break like a ceramic plate from them being children, was fantastic. And I'm looking at her plateware and I'm like, she can create for me this stainless steel deli container. And it's
I need this for my restaurant and every restaurant. Boom.
Yes, and it's going to be in every restaurant. And I'm hashtag ditch the delis is our campaign. And we've been working on it, and we're working on the prototype and making this.
Oh, cool.
And I'm so excited, because 2 moms are able to think about something that can impact so many different industries.
Yeah. I also want that at home. by the way.
What we're saying, it's like even storage containers for home.
It's going big.
So those are like the little things that, even though it's hard to do, I just feel like because our brains as moms are like all over the place, like we can connect the dots and like see the things that maybe the other half might not see, if you know what I mean.
Just like constant nurturing and reconnecting the dots and the caretaker energy of how do we take care of our families and that protect that like mama bear protection thing that comes on strong.
Also,
and how do we protect our kids and every kid?
Totally. And also with that, like, that's what I always say is like restaurant people are naturally also, just, moms are, but restaurant people are nurturers. Like we firsthand are like the first people in a crisis to show up. Like we want to take care of people. So what I feel like has been the missing link of all the stuff that we're talking about, I'm doing with Alma versus maybe a traditional restaurant, is like the education and resources and awareness is what's lacking. And if we give people the tools necessary to succeed and we don't make it $1 million and it's more accessible to them to be able to do, like, I think they're going to choose the thing that's better for their guests, better for the planet, better for their employees. And that's kind of the thing that people need to build more trust again with restaurants and realize that we are like here for our communities. It's really in our nature. It's what hospitality is.
It is the center of community and gathering. Just thank you so much for being in conversation with me. I know that you're running the restaurant. I'm running to Eat Real, where we're trying to change the largest restaurant chain in America, our public schools. Like,
so amazed with what you're doing, and truly like just so honored to be on the Chef Council with you and everything that you're doing. It's like incredible as a mom to see somebody like disrupting the food systems and working
we're doing it together.
Yeah, but schools is like a whole other beast, and being on the hill with you and just talking about these things, it's just very visible, like that without that push, like nothing's going to change. So
you're a force on the hill, by the way. Thank you for coming to that. and then hosting the after party at Alma was so magical. I'm like still floating from that day. But thank you, Chef. Thank you, dear friend. I'm so grateful for you. And people, just really quickly, where can people learn more about you and Alma?
Yeah, so we're Alma, AMA restaurant.bar. That's actually our website, not .com, almarestaurant.bar. And it's also our Instagram handle. So you can find us there. And then I'm Chef Johanna Hellrigl on Instagram. And yeah, we're in DC. We're about 3-4 blocks from the Capitol. And we are open 7 days a week from 8 a.m. until close. So we do cafe, kind of coffee, breakfast. We do full lunch service, and then we also do dinner. So yeah,
that's what good. I can't wait to be back. I'm gonna be back soon. I'm like, even if I'm like, oh, maybe on the way to New York, I was like, or like just for the trip to DC, just for Alma. It's like my favorite place. And please open one on the West Coast. Anyways, I'm so thankful for you, love. Have a beautiful day, and just thank you for your friendship, your bold leadership, for somehow balancing it all, even though balance is bullshit, like so for charging forward. And let's take our little guys to Italy soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This episode was brought to you by Rora. Rora, thank you so much for supporting the Nourished with Nora podcast and helping bring cleaner, safer, and absolutely delicious water to families around the country. Visit rora.com/Nora. That's RORRA.com/NORA to get 10% off your countertop system or filtered shower head today. We hope you'll subscribe to Nourish with Nora everywhere.